Why did you try to quit school? Why were you not successful in quitting school?
I think the story you're alluding to is I played in a band, right? I played the piano, probably not very well, but there was an excellent lead singer. His name was Hugh Mayford, and he's just a wonderful man, good-looking, white blonde beard and a voice like velvet. I would say, a better guitarist than Eric Clapton, honestly, as such. And so we played in this band. Our career, we had another, we were called C of all, we used to play at this nightclub, this restaurant. And there was a man called Roger Law from Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck, which was a very famous, well, semi-famous band at the time. But he joined us, and we kind of wondered why, because we were in a resort area, a little tiny community. And the why is that Roger Law was addicted to heroin, and he was on the way down, but I had no idea what heroin, of course, was at all. No idea. The effects, right? So Hugh Mayford one day announces that we're going to quit school, and we're going to take our band, our career, on the road, right? And so, great idea, fantastic. I hated school, and so here's a chance, you know, to go and become rich and the proverbial famous, the American dream, right? Meet some girls, have a car, blah, blah, blah. So I went home, and I told my mother, I said, Mom, my mother's always very sweet, eh? Mom? She said, yes, Leon, yes, yes. What is it, dear? I said, Mom, I'm quitting school. And she says, what? I said, yeah, so Hume and I have decided that we're quitting school and going on the road, right? And she said nothing. And I said nothing. And it's kind of very strange, you know, because you would think that she's going to say, well, I love you, honey, goodbye, good luck. Then after about, the longest 2 minutes of my life, Luke, she seemed to be possessed by the devil, if I could describe it that way. She started to vibrate, and my mother's a very peaceful woman, right? Vibrate, and then eventually out of this kind of primordial voice comes, you're not quitting school, right? And I was just shocked that she would be like this. And so I thought, well, I really don't know if I have the strength, you know, physically, morally, psychologically, to deal with this kind of rejection. So I went back and I told Hume, I'm not quitting school, I'm sorry. But he did. And he left our village, big deal, and they went on the road, and about 10 years later, maybe I was 26, 27, I was married already, and I met him in a bar, in a nightclub somewhere, and he introduced me to his wife. And, you know, your first impression is everything, right? You know, and I met his wife, and there was some sense of darkness. Something was not quite right, right? And then, we were very polite, sociable, and whatever, and then I met him 10 years later, by accident in my village, and something had happened. Somehow I walked up to him, and you can always tell the signs of alcoholism or drug addiction, because the redness comes here, you can't avoid it, right? So redness here, and he's missing a tooth, it's very strange in Canada, you know. And I asked him, Hume, how are you? And he looked right past me, and he looked at my wife's van. We just bought a new van, one of these huge ones, you know. And it was hers, not mine. It was in her name and everything. And he said, is that yours? And I wanted to be truthful. I guess maybe I'm paying for it, but it's not mine. I said, no, it's my wife's. He's looking at this van. He said, oh, that's a beautiful van. And so I said, Hume, Leon, how are you? Hume, you know. And he said, oh, no, I'm fine. But he wasn't fine. And that was the end of our kind of a short chat, and he walked off, and then he died about 2 years later. So the career that we had embarked on totally failed, right? So I instead went to university and traveled, lived in Europe, and embarked on a totally different path, and I'm sitting here today. But he should have been, he's one of those, he should have been a rock and roll superstar. He had that kind of talent, right? Truly. And I should be saying today, you know, Hume Aford was my friend, and people should be going, come on, Leon, you didn't, come on, you're kidding me, right? Didn't happen that way, Luke, right? I always remember this, you know, and the reason I bring it up again, actually, well, you bring it up, of course, but it's very fresh, is when I was at my mother's house recently, there was a newspaper clipping from a local newspaper about our band. There's Hume and myself, and what kind of music I wrote, what kind of music he wrote, and we're very original, you know, long hair, earring, you know, oh yeah, sure. Gosh, what a life. You know, wouldn't recognize myself if I saw me today in that sense. Different person. Funny.
Can you be friends with your children?
Had a woman speak to me the other day about her son is 13 and he's being rebellious and he's not coming home on time. And I, what do I do? And I said, well, does he have a cell phone? Yeah. I said, well, then you tell him the next time he does it, you're going to take the cell phone away. Is it important to him? Yeah, very. Okay. You tell him this. And if he does it again, you take the cell phone away. You know, and your job as a parent is not to be popular. It's to be the parent, to be the boss in the best way that you can, given the givens, you know, your intellect and et cetera, et cetera. And I believe that a lot of people don't do that. They want to be friends with their children, and you can't be friends. You can't be friends. You have to be the parent, right? And so that's what my mother was doing. And my mother, I think, never wanted to be our friend. You know, she wanted to be our confidant, our guide, our mentor, but not friend in the traditional sense. So, yeah. But yeah, look, where would this have all gone? Conversely, one doesn't know. Maybe I would have helped Hume keep away from those kinds of people. I mean, one doesn't know, you know. I mean, that's the wonderful part about life, isn't it? With all these various, I'm sure you've met people that have gone into a certain direction, some successful, some absolutely not. My parents never told me, you got to study A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That was up to me totally, but they certainly believed that you needed the grounding to begin. So that was her concern. It wasn't so much that, you know, she didn't want me to do what I wanted to do, but she wanted to ensure that I had the tools to do it. And without a grade 12 education, look, I mean, gosh, even back 40 years, it wasn't a good thing, right? Really, I mean, that was the first thing they asked. Do you have a high school education? University was a esoteric, you know, far away. It wasn't really, most people wasn't really that interesting, unless you became a doctor, a lawyer. But just to study liberal arts, I mean, why? When the industrial towns were making so much money, you know, so, yeah.
Should we play it safe in life? Why or why not?
I think the problem is, and I will refer to Dr. Frankl here. Imagine that you have, imagine you have a mouse or a gerbil, and you put him in a cage that's too small. And the gerbil's going to run around and he's going to bounce against the walls of the cage and he's going to run on his little wheel and he'll never settle down, right? And that's the human spirit, I believe. If you won't let the human spirit out of the cage, it's going to run around and cause you a lot of problems. So there's lots of studies, etc., that have shown that people that don't do what they wanted to do or at least tried suffer later in life, you know. And what's the old statement from a lot of old people? You know, if I were your age, Luke, I would such and such, but it's not real, right? So yeah, that's why.
Why is the graveyard the richest piece of real estate? Should the elderly give back to the society?
Yeah, what he means is the same thing as Frankl is talking about, basically, is that your potential, and you know what your potential is, if you die with it inside yourself, you're dying full, right? I think he goes on to say the richest piece of real estate is a graveyard, because it's where people die that are filled with dreams and hopes that never were realized, right? So here we have a situation just like that. Get it all out, Luke. Whatever you're good at, whatever you think you're good at, could be good at, express it. Don't keep it back. Give back. You know, I have a real problem with people who retire and then they do not contribute back to the society, the kids. They don't lecture on their what their area of expertise was. Art history, as you know, a friend. I mean, there's business. I mean, why can't you give a class one day a week to a group of young people? Why not?